Hello again, everybody. Andrew Rogers here for TST Total Sports Talk. It's a pleasure to be back with you again for another week of TST Total Sports Talk. Had a great weekend. I was in Buffalo over the weekend for the Buffalo Bills and Denver Broncos football game, and it was an amazing weekend. And it was an amazing week in sports. There was a lot happening. There was a good amount of stuff going on. And we're going to try and touch on a little bit of everything. We're first going to talk about the Saugeen Shores WInterhawks coming up on Hawk Talk. Big announcement from the OOA Senior Men's League. The big announcement concerning one of the teams in the league. We'll get to that on Hawk Talk as they prepare to open up their season 11 days from today. We're also going to talk about the Major League Baseball story. It was a touching farewell in Toronto for Jose Bautista in the Toronto Blue Jays' last home game of the regular season as they prepare to conclude the MLB's regular season portion of the games come this Sunday. We're going to talk about all the NFL action from week number 2 as it concluded last night. Dallas Cowboys defeating the Arizona Cardinals 28-17 to wrap week 3. We'll give you all the details on how week 3 shook out in the NFL. We're also going to talk about the NBA. A couple of massive transactions in preparation of the season, which gets underway on October 19th for the Toronto Raptors as they open their season against the Chicago Bulls. We'll tell you more about that as well. We'll talk about the NHL story. The Toronto Maple Leafs have played 5 preseason games. They are 3-2, and so far it has been all about Austin Matthews, and he looks poised to have an incredible sophomore season for the Toronto Maple Leafs. We're also going to talk about the Ontario Hockey League. The Owen Sound Attack opened their season over the weekend against the Flint Firebirds. We'll give you all the details about that game and get you help tee up for the next 2 that come this weekend for the Owen Sound Attack out of the Ontario Hockey League. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come right back with Hawk Talk. Don't go anywhere. Stick around. TST is just getting started, folks. It should be a dandy. You don't want to miss it. You are watching TST Total Sports Talk. TST Total Sports Talk presents Hawk Talk, brought to you by Gord's Imprints and Design. New location opening at 685 Goderich Street in downtown Port Elgin in the fall of 2017. Visit www.gordsimprints.com for more. Andrew Rogers back with you for TST Total Sports Talk, and this is Hawk Talk for this week. The Saugeen Shores WInterhawks are 11 days away from getting their season started against the Ripley Wolves on Hockey Day in Kincardine, Saturday, October the 7th. There was some news off the ice, however, in the league, as announced this past Wednesday. The Mapleton Minto 81s will be withdrawing from the league for the upcoming season. They will not play their scheduled games, which means that it affects the Saugeen Shores WInterhawks in the following way. The WInterhawks had 2 games, one at home, one on the road, against the Mapleton Minto 81 scheduled. Those games will no longer take place, and they will be filled at a different time. There will be something else scheduled there. The league is planning to revise their schedule so that each team will still get to play their 20 games that they expected to play before this announcement. The Mapleton Minto 81s released the following statement on Twitter. They said it was sad but true, a 1-year withdrawal to regroup and hopefully be back with new energy both behind the scenes and on the ice. Thank you to everyone who dedicated their time and energy in the past years. Senior hockey in Palmerston has always been fun. We wish those players who seek other teams this year the best and hope to see them back next year. That coming from the Mapleton Minto 81s from their official Twitter. It's a devastating announcement, really it is, for the WOA Senior A Men's League. Anytime that you get a team this close to the season that is forced to withdraw their scheduled upcoming season is really unfortunate. They were citing a lack of player interest in general was the main reason behind the withdrawal of the team from the league. Now, the players that did try out or at least show up for tryouts for the Mapleton Minto 81s will rest assured try and find other hockey elsewhere. It'd be interesting to see if that affects the Winterhawks in any way, or other teams around the league for that matter, whether it be to make them stronger or to possibly alter their plans for the upcoming season. What we know here on TST is that we are getting excited for the season to start. It's only 11 days away. Very exciting part of Hawk Talk going forward, starting next week, will be the debut of our player profile segments, which we will be shooting this Friday. Once the entire roster will be announced, which is this week, we will go and we will have an interview with all the players from the Saugeen Shores WInterhawks and give you a different player profile each and every week. It's a chance to get to know your Winterhawks from a local standpoint. It's just an interesting added touch to the entirety of this season, which we're really excited about here on TST Total Sports Talk as well. We'll give you the full roster breakdown. We'll give you a list of everybody who's made the team this year and will be playing for your 2017-2018 Saugeen Shores Winterhawks as they look to capture their 5th WOA Senior A Men's Championship. 5th since them coming back into the league in 2007 and 2008. This has been Hawk Talk. Andrew Rogers saying, yes, this is Hawk Talk. Winterhawks start 11 days from now. We'll be right back, folks, after this short break. We'll see you on the other side. You are watching TST Total Sports Talk.
I love you, boys.
TST Total Sports Talk presents the Owen Sound Attack Report. Welcome back, everybody. Andrew Rogers here for TST Total Sports Talk. We're going to talk now about the Ontario Hockey League and the Owen Sound Attack, as the whole league, Ontario Hockey League, opened their season this past week. It was the OHL opening week, which saw the Owen Sound Attack open their season this past Saturday at home at the Bayshore against the Flint Firebirds. Unfortunately, the Attack would come out on the losing end in this one, as the Flint Firebirds downed the Owen Sound Attack 4-3 as a result of the shootout. Garrett Forrest for the Flint Firebirds was absolutely phenomenal in this game. He made 43 saves on 46 shots as the Firebirds were thoroughly outplayed, however, come out with the victory in the shootout. Zach Bauman of the Owen Sound Attack was very good in net for the Owen Sound Attack, 24 saves for him on 27 shots. Leading the way for the Owen Sound Attack on the scoreboard was Kevin Hancock with a goal and 2 assists. Jonah Gadjevic had a goal and an assist. Nick Suzuki, back from the Vegas Knights, had a goal and an assist as well. Matthew Struthers had an assist, and defenseman Beamish had an assist as well. The Flint Firebirds got goals from Mattinen, Keppen, and Holmes to pace them on the scoreboard there. Now with 3 points in the opening game, Kevin Hancock is our TST Player of the Week for the Owen Sound Attack. Of course, they've only played one game. They're getting ready, though, for their upcoming games. The Owen Sound Attack's next game is Friday when they travel to Kitchener to take on the Kitchener Rangers at the Memorial Auditorium this Friday at 7:30. It should be a dandy tilt there. They are back home the following evening on Saturday at the Bayshore as they host the Mississauga Steelheads. Now, yes, NHL prospects Jonah Gadjevic of the Vancouver Canucks and Nick Suzuki of the Vegas Golden Knights. Both had a goal and assist in this one. It's great to see them back with the Owen Sound Attack for the upcoming season. It'll be very important for the Attack, in my opinion, to have them in the lineup, pacing this Owen Sound Attack team throughout the season. Now, the big question I think for the Attack going forward in terms of the season overall would be the goaltending. Michael McNiven is not there anymore, and he had a phenomenal season last year. Zach Bauman is going to need to have a great year if he is relied upon throughout the majority of the games that they play. They also have Matt Guzda, the rookie goaltender. It'll be interesting to see how much playing time he receives and how good he makes those opportunities come out. Now, prior to the game as well, the Owen Sound Attack named defenseman Jacob Friend the 22nd captain in franchise history. He takes over for Santino Centorame, who was the captain of the Owen Sound Attack last season. He is the 22nd captain in franchise history. They also announced assistant captains for the remainder of the season. Jonah Gadjevich, Nick Suzuki, and Ethan Zapula wore the A on the weekend, this past weekend. Ethan Zapula will be on a rotation basis. I'm not sure how that's going to work out, but it'll be interesting to see. Anyways, it's a big honor for Ethan, for no question about that. But Jonah Gadjevich and Nick Suzuki will wear the A full-time this upcoming season for the Owen Sound Attack. Dropped the first one, 4-3 in a shootout. Tough one to lose, but learning experience, no doubt, as they look to get a couple W's over the weekend, starting on Friday night in Kitchener against the Kitchener Rangers at the Memorial Auditorium. We'll be right back after this. Stick around, folks. You are watching TST Total Sports Talk. TST Total Sports Talk presents the NHL and the Toronto Maple Leafs report. Welcome back, everybody, to the show. Andrew Rogers here for TST Total Sports Talk. Great to see you. Great to have you here. We're going to move on now to the NHL story. The Toronto Maple Leafs have played 5 preseason games, and they are now 3-2 after last night's win over the Montreal Canadiens. They defeated them 5-1 over at Ricoh Coliseum. Austin Matthews, 3 goals and an assist for him in the game. He's been unbelievable. You know, I really hope Austin Matthews has a phenomenal season for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I hope that he doesn't suffer the sophomore jinx, and I hope that he can pace this Leaf team to a playoff appearance and a good playoff run, because there's no doubt the city of Toronto will be absolutely ecstatic should this happen. Leafs so far through the preseason, they started the preseason with on a bit of a rocky note. They dropped 2 games back-to-back to the Ottawa Senators, 6-2, and then 5-2. However, they did rebound with a couple victories over the Buffalo Sabres over the weekend, 3-0 and 3-1. Freddie Anderson was massive in this game for the Toronto Maple Leafs yesterday. He stopped 21 of 22 for the Maple Leafs in a 5-1 win over Montreal. They'll play each other again on Wednesday from the Videotron Center in Montreal. I'll give you an idea. So in the first game, it was Matthews from Connor Brown and Morgan Riley. William Nylander from Morgan Riley and Austin Matthews in the first game for the Leafs. Patty Marleau got on the board as his first as a Maple Leaf in the preseason. He got the first one for the Leafs in the second game of the preseason for them. It was assisted by Leo Komarov, JVR from Mitch Martyr, and Jake Gardner was the second goal of the game there. Game number 3 for the Leafs over the Sabres, a 3-0 victory. Morgan Riley scored for the Leafs. He was unassisted. Leo Komarov, he got on the board from Ron Hainsey, and William Nylander finished out the scoring with an assist from Zach Hyman. In that game, 3-0 was the final there. Saturday saw the Leafs travel to Buffalo and defeat them 3-1. You had JVR from Marner and Zaitsev. Kasperi Kapanen looking to crack a roster spot from Sam Carrick and Cal Rosen. And Nikita Soshnikov with a goal from Eric Fair and Kasperi Kapanen, who had a goal and assist there. But no doubt for me, in my mind, the TST Total Sports Talk Player of the Week for the Toronto Maple Leafs was Austin Matthews. It's great to see him going, and it's you know what, we're really excited for the season to start over here on TST Total Sports Talk. Leafs open the season in 8 days against the Winnipeg Jets on the road, and it should be a phenomenal season in the NHL, and I look forward to covering it each and every week for you on the program. We'll continue to give you all the Leafs updates and keep you informed as to what's going on there when they finally announce their opening night roster. When we put an episode out next week, it should be right in the tee-up time for the October 4th start against the Winnipeg Jets. They're for their first week, they're on the road in Winnipeg, October 4th, at home against the New York Rangers on Saturday night, October the 7th. This has been Andrew Rogers for TST Total Sports Talk and for your Toronto Maple Leafs and NHL report. We'll be right back after this. Stick around. You are watching TST Total Sports Talk.
I love you, boys.
TST Total Sports Talk presents the NFL Report. Welcome back, everybody. Andrew Rogers here for TST Total Sports Talk. Thank you very much for joining me. As always, it's a pleasure to have you here. It really is. And I honestly want to say thank you very much for all the support with the show. It's been an amazing reception coming back, putting up 2 episodes, having them both reach over 100 views is just simply phenomenal. So thank you very much for your continued support. We're going to touch now on the National Football League. We'll finish up recapping week number 2 with the Monday Nighter that took place last week between the Detroit Lions and the New York Giants. And we'll also recap you on all the scores from week number 3, get you teed up for week number 4 in the NFL, and touch on some key injuries that we'll be following leading into the following week number 4 in the NFL. To say that the NFL action has been nothing but wacky is an understatement. There's been a lot of weird games. There's been a lot of weird scores. But it's a fun time nonetheless. I love football season. It's a spectacular time of year, really it is. And it's interesting because I play fantasy football. I got 4 leagues, and it always makes it that much more interesting when it comes to following the National Football League on a regular basis. So without further ado, wrap week number 2. The Detroit Lions defeating the New York Football Giants 24-10, moving to 2-0. The Giants falling to 0-2. Matt Stafford was very good in this game, 15-21 for 122 yards, 2 touchdowns. The Detroit Lions defense was nothing short of stout on the day, and it's good to see them come out with a win in week number 2 to wrap up week number 2 in the NFL. Switching over now to week number 3, what was thought to be a dud coming into the week. This Thursday nighter, this past week's Thursday nighter between the LA Rams and the San Francisco 49ers was probably the most entertaining game that you may see all season long. Mark my words. The LA Rams defeated the San Francisco 49ers 41-39. That's right. These two teams combined for 80 points. A game that probably speculated that these two teams might combine for 13 points. Actually end up combining for 80. The San Francisco 49ers were down by a ton going into the fourth quarter. They made a game of it, had a chance to potentially win it or tie it. Unfortunately, Brian Hoyer was sacked. 4th and 20, and that ended the game for the LA Rams. LA Rams moved to 2-1, San Francisco to 0-3. Jared Goff was very good in this game, 22 of 28, 292 yards and 3 touchdowns. He was helped out a ton by his running back, Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley rushed for 28 times for 113 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also caught 5 receptions for 36 yards and a touchdown. He was a phenomenal running back for the LA Rams this week and in general in the week number 3 of the NFL. Moving over to Sunday's action, we saw the first London game of the season. Jacksonville Jaguars and the Baltimore Ravens. Jacksonville Jaguars coming out on top of this one, 44-7. This game wasn't close from the outset. Jacksonville led 23-0 at half. They were up 44-0 before the Baltimore Ravens scored any points at all. Baltimore drops to 2-1. Jacksonville moves to 2-1. They are tied atop the AFC South division through 3 games. Unbelievable. Blake Bortles was very good in this game. 20 of 31, 244 yards, and 4 touchdowns for him. His big target on the day was Mercedes Lewis, the tight end for the Jacksonville Jaguars. 4 receptions for him, 62 yards, and 3 reception touchdowns. Now, over in Denver, I had the privilege of being there for this game. In Buffalo, between the Buffalo Bills and the Denver Broncos. Buffalo coming out on top in this one. 26-16 was the final score. Both teams now sit at 2-1. Tyrod Taylor, very good for the Buffalo Bills. 213 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. His main target on the day was Charles Clay. He had 6 receptions for 39 yards and 1 touchdown. This game was really surprising. What was thought to be a blowout, going to be a blowout by the Denver Broncos, turned into a Buffalo Bills win, 26-16. It was the 2 turnovers from Denver that really killed them. Trevor Siemian threw 2 interceptions, and unfortunately Denver was unable to recover in that one. Like I said though, both teams now 2-1, moving into week number 4. Our next game comes from Carolina. The New Orleans Saints defeating the Carolina Panthers 34-13. New Orleans gets their first win of the season. They're now 1-2. Carolina drops to 2-1. Drew Brees very good in this game, 22 of 29, 220 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. Michael Thomas, his big beneficiary on the day, 7 receptions, 87 yards, and a touchdown for him. Over in Pittsburgh, the 2-0 Pittsburgh Steelers came in thinking they were going to whitewash the visiting Chicago Bears, who were 0-2. It did not turn out that way, as the Chicago Bears outmanned and outrushed the Pittsburgh Steelers. They had a field day on the ground. They defeated the Pittsburgh Steelers in overtime, 23-17. Chicago now goes to 1-2. Pittsburgh to 2-1. Jordan Howard very good in this game, 23 rushes for 138 yards and 2 touchdowns. Tariq Cohen had 12 rushes on his own for 78 yards. They were able to do whatever they wanted to at will on the ground. The Chicago Bears all over the Pittsburgh Steelers on the ground and paced them to a 23-17 win over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Atlanta Falcons defeated the Detroit Lions 30-26. Atlanta is now 3-0 on the season, while Detroit slips to 2-1. Matt Ryan very good in this game, 24 of 35, 294 yards, 2 touchdowns. Unfortunately, 3 interceptions. However, they still come out with the W. Devontae Freeman, 21 rushes for 106 yards and a touchdown for the Atlanta Falcons. Detroit had their chance to win the game late, but ultimately could not prevail in this one. Indianapolis Colts, they get their first win of the season, albeit against the lowly Cleveland Browns. This game was very close. Came down to the wire. Indianapolis winning 31-28. Indy goes to 1-2. Cleveland slips to 0-3 on the season. Jacoby Brissett filling in for Andrew Luck, who's hurt. May not come back now until week number 6, they're saying. Jacoby Brissett, 17 of 24 passing, 259 yards, and a touchdown. He also ran for 2 touchdowns on 14 yards on 5 carries. He was very good and really dominated from the quarterback position. He had a good day through the air as well. T.Y. Hilton was his big target. 7 catches for 153 yards and a touchdown. For T.Y. Hilton, the Minnesota Vikings went into Tampa Bay probably with the expectation that, you know what, they might be able to make a game out of it. I think a lot of our experts thought that Tampa might come out on this one, but it was Minnesota coming out in a big way. 34-17 was the final score over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Minnesota goes to 2-1. Tampa goes to 1-1 through 2 games. Their first game obviously was canceled, but they are 1-1 on the season. The big story in this one was not Stephon Diggs and his 8 receptions for 173 yards and 2 touchdowns. The biggest story here was ex-LA Rams quarterback Case Keenum coming in on a spot start for Sam Bradford, who was forced to miss his second game with a knee injury. He was phenomenal in this game. 25 of 33, 369 yards, 3 touchdowns for Case Keenum. It was an unbelievable stat line that I don't think anybody could have predicted. Big in relief, big in leading them to a victory over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Like I said, final score 34-17, Minnesota at 2-1, Tampa at 1-1. New England surviving, and that's an understatement, against the Houston Texans who pushed them to the brink. New England winning 36-33. New England goes to 2-1. Houston Texans fall to 1-2. Brandon Cooks was massive in this game for the New England Patriots. 5 catches for 131 yards and 2 touchdowns. He caught the game-winning touchdown from Tom Brady, who was Tom Brady on the weekend. Vintage Tom Brady, 25 of 35, 378 yards, and 5 touchdown passes. Yes, 5 touchdown passes. He needed every single one of them. 36-33 is the final for the New England Patriots. The New York Football Jets finally got their first win of the season. They are at 1-2 now, defeating the lowly Miami Dolphins 20-6. Miami is at 1-1 on the season, and they could not do anything against the New York Jets. They were very good defensively, and they did enough that they needed to do on offense. It was a very vintage Jay Cutler performance for the Miami Dolphins, unfortunately, in this one, as they come up short against the New York Jets, 20-6. Josh McCown of the New York Jets was very good, 18 of 23 for 249 yards and a touchdown. His big target, Robbie Anderson, the wide receiver, 3 catches for 95 yards and a touchdown there. The Philadelphia Eagles defeated the New York Giants 27-24. Philadelphia Eagles go to 2-1. New York Giants 0-3. The Philadelphia Eagles needed a 42-yard tying field goal to set up a game-winning 61-yarder from their rookie kicker. It was absolutely phenomenal to see. It was absolutely phenomenal to watch. A massive victory for the Philadelphia Eagles in this one. They had a great running game going. Wendell Smallwood had 12 rushes for 71 yards, and LeGarrette Blount, 12 rushes for 67 yards and a touchdown. The big story out of this one was a very concerning injury to running back Darren Sproles. Early on in the game, he went down with an injury when he tore his ACL and broke his forearm on the same play. Devastating injury, devastating news for Darren Sproles and the Philadelphia Eagles, who look to move on without him. Smallwood and Blount, they look very good in relief. A lot of yards on a good amount of carries. They split that duty. It'll be interesting to see what happens from them here on out. Tennessee Titans defeating the Seattle Seahawks 33-27. Tennessee goes to 2-1. Seattle Seahawks to 1-2. Marcus Mariota, very good. 20 of 32, 225 yards and 2 touchdowns. And DeMarco Murray was back to his old self. 14 rushes, 115 yards and a touchdown after looking lackluster in week number 2. Tennessee, 2-1. They're tied with Jacksonville for that AFC South division lead. The Green Bay Packers needed overtime to survive against the Cincinnati Bengals, who came in and pushed them to the brink. Green Bay prevailing 27-24 in overtime on a Mason Crosby field goal, game winner. This after Aaron Rodgers completed a 72-yard pass to Geronimo Allison in overtime to set up that game-winning field goal. Green Bay moves to 2-1. Cincinnati Bengals drop to 0-3. They hadn't scored a touchdown all season long coming into this game, and they pushed them. They had them. They had the lead almost the entire game, and Green Bay coming back, very vintage Aaron Rodgers coming back and leading them to victory. Aaron Rodgers goes 28 of 42 for 313 yards, 3 touchdowns and an interception. Geronimo Allison, his big target, 6 receptions for 122 yards there. Kansas City Chiefs, 3-0. They are the only undefeated team out of the AFC. The NFC has the Atlanta Falcons at 3-0. Kansas City defeating the LA Chargers, 24-10. Kansas City at 3-0. On the other side of the spectrum, LA Chargers are 0-3. Phillip Rivers throwing in 3 interceptions in this game. Alex Smith was very good, 16 of 21, 155 yards for him, and 2 touchdowns. Kareem Hunt, back to his old ways, rushed for a 67-yard game-winning touchdown late in the fourth quarter. He had 17 rushes for 172 yards and a touchdown for him. Our final game on Sunday had the Washington Redskins defeating the Oakland Raiders 27-10. Washington 2-1 now on the season. Oakland falls to 2-1 as well. They are tied with Denver for second in the AFC West. Kirk Cousins was very good in this game, 25-30 for 365 yards and 3 touchdowns. His big beneficiary of his hot game was Chris Thompson, running back. He had 8 rushes for 38 yards, but he was big through the air, 6 receptions for 150 yards and a touchdown. Our Monday nighter last night had the Dallas Cowboys defeating the Arizona Cardinals 28-17. Dallas moves to 2-1. Arizona 1-2. Dak Prescott very good in this game, 13 of 18, passing for 183 yards and the 2 touchdowns. He also rushed for a touchdown, 3 rushes for 16 yards and that TD. Ezekiel Elliott looked to his old self, 22 rushes for him, 80 yards and a touchdown. A much better game for the Dallas Cowboys all around comparison to last week's game against the Denver Broncos. Here's now is our Week 4 schedule. We have Chicago at Green Bay. That leads off our schedule on Thursday night at 8:25. We also have another London game this Sunday at 9:30 a.m. as the New Orleans Saints and the Miami Dolphins clash from Wembley Stadium in London. Our Sunday slate gets underway. Buffalo and Atlanta. Pittsburgh Steelers are into Baltimore to face off against Baltimore Ravens. Cincinnati Bengals and the Cleveland Browns will tangle. LA Rams are into Dallas to face off against the Cowboys. Tennessee Titans are into Houston to face off against the Texans. Detroit is into Minnesota to face off against the Minnesota Vikings. Jacksonville Jaguars will tangle with the New York Jets. San Francisco will tangle with the Arizona Cardinals. That starts our 4 o'clock games on Sunday. Philadelphia Eagles are in Los Angeles to face off against the LA Chargers. The New York Giants are into Tampa Bay to face off against Jameis Winston and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That goes at 4:25. Oakland and Denver leads the AFC West showdown. That goes at 4:25. This will be a phenomenal game. Both teams at 2-1, looking to create some separation in the AFC West. Indianapolis Colts are into Seattle to face off against the Seattle Seahawks. Both teams 1-2. That's our Sunday nighter at 8:30 over on NBC. Our Monday nighter concludes week number 4 in the NFL. Washington Redskins at 2-1 are into Kansas City to face the undefeated Kansas City Chiefs at 3-0. Injuries that we're tracking. Darren Sproles, out for the season. Torn ACL and broken arm on the same play for the Philadelphia Eagles this past week. We're also tracking Sam Bradford as he is day-to-day with a knee injury. Not sure exactly when he's coming back. He remains questionable. Kelvin Benjamin of the Carolina Panthers left the game with a knee injury over the weekend. He is being listed as questionable. Early reports are that it's not as serious as it looked. It'll be interesting to see if he plays this week. Doug Baldwin exited with a growing injury over the weekend. Everything looks to be good there. They're saying he came back in a spectacular fashion. It seems that he will be probable for Sunday night's tilt against the Indianapolis Colts at 8:30 over on NBC. And finally, Melvin Gordon. It's been revealed that he has a bone bruise in his knee. It's being said to be minor, and that he should be good to go in week number 4. Andrew Rogers, TST Total Sports Talk. That is your NFL report. We'll be right back after this. Don't go anywhere. You are watching TST Total Sports Talk. TST Total Sports Talk presents the Toronto Raptors and the NBA Report. Andrew Rogers back here with you with your NBA Report for TST Total Sports Talk. Thank you very much for joining me, as always. The NBA, we're getting close. The Toronto Raptors are getting ready to open up their season starting October 19th against the Chicago Bulls. They open up the preseason October 1st, starting next week, essentially. It's coming. The Toronto Raptors will play in 5 preseason games, as we've announced on the show. But there were waves off the floor over this past weekend, and by waves I mean tidal waves. The New York Knicks announced that they had traded star small forward Carmelo Anthony to the Oklahoma City Thunder. I don't know about you casual or non-casual NBA fans out there, but I didn't see this coming. It didn't seem to me that the Oklahoma City Thunder were one of those teams that was a front runner for the services of Carmelo Anthony. But boy, does that only add to the intrigue over on the Western Conference side. It's just another example yet of an Eastern Conference player, superstar, going over and flipping over to the Western Conference. They are loaded over there, and they will be an unbelievable season over in the Western Conference. The Eastern Conference just got weaker. Western Conference got stronger. Particularly the Oklahoma City Thunder, as yet another big three is now in the Western Conference. Russell Westbrook, newly acquired Paul George from the Indiana Pacers, and now Carmelo Anthony from the New York Knicks. It'd be interesting to see how these three players gel, but they should no doubt be able to put some pressure on teams like the Spurs and the Golden State Warriors and the Houston Rockets. They will challenge these guys. Russell Westbrook's probably one of the best players in the NBA, in my opinion. It's definitely the summer of all-stars heading from the East to the West. What this means, though, is that it's only a good thing for the Toronto Raptors. Is their path to the playoffs may be easier as a result of these players shipping over to the Western Conference. It'd be really interesting to see how this all shakes out. That was not the biggest news, though. Okay, maybe it was the biggest news, but it was not the only news. Possibly the worst-kept secret in basketball was that the Chicago Bulls were going to waive and buy out All-Star player Dwayne Wade. Well, it came Sunday as it was finally announced that the Chicago Bulls had bought out Dwayne Wade from the team. He's released. He's on waivers. It's being reported that the Cleveland Cavaliers, San Antonio Spurs, Oklahoma City Thunder, and the Miami Heat are the front runners to land Dwayne Wade and have him play for them in the upcoming season. Be really interesting to see what happens. I'm being told that the Cleveland Cavaliers, I'm reading that they are the reported, they are most likely of all those four teams to sign Dwayne Wade. LeBron James pushing big time for Dwayne Wade, as obviously they're buddies outside of the NBA, and they spend a lot of time together outside of the floor. But he is a big advocate to bringing Dwayne Wade in. And I can understand that. I mean, they're going to need the East, whether it be Boston or whether it be Cleveland or any other team in the East. They're going to have their hands full when it comes to that NBA final against whoever comes out of the West. Whoever survives is going to be powerful as any. And the Eastern Conference team that comes out and represents the East in the NBA final are going to have their hands full. LeBron James is smart. He's thinking, I need Dwayne Wade. I need him to come back, and I need him to be able to be by my side and help me lead the Cavaliers to that next level. Losing Kyrie to Boston will hurt them. Dwayne Wade will be a nice touch for them to be able to bridge that gap between the time that the season starts and they get Isaiah Thomas back, whenever that could be. That could be even in December sometime. Dwayne Wade will no doubt help this team, and he will cost very little, I think, in the uncertainty of it. That's your NBA story. The Toronto Raptors, like I said, they open up their season against the Chicago Bulls on October 19th. I can't wait for the season to start. It'll be really fun to watch, for sure. This has been Andrew Rogers for the NBA Report on TST Total Sports Talk. We'll be right back after this. Don't go anywhere, folks. We're about to close this show. You are watching TST Total Sports Talk.
I love you, boys.
TST Total Sports Talk presents the Major League Baseball Report and Toronto Blue Jays Report. Welcome back, everybody, to TST Total Sports Talk. I am your host, Andrew Rogers. Thank you very much for joining me, as always, for another week of TST Total Sports Talk. We're going to talk right now about the MLB story. If you missed it over the weekend, very, very touching farewell to one of the Toronto Blue Jays all-time greats. Jose Bautista potentially playing his very last game as a member of the Toronto Blue Jays in Toronto. And they made sure to give him the proper send-off that he deserved. This guy's played here for a long time, and no doubt he's given the franchise some of their most iconic moments in the team's history. Jose went 2 for 4 with an RBI in the 9-5 Jays win on Sunday, and like I said, fitting way for Jose to be sent off, given a big rousing ovation. The Toronto Blue Jays let him take the field before the game started on his own, giving him a chance to get a proper ovation in. Also in the 9th inning, manager John Gibbons replaced Jose Bautista with Ezekiel Carrera in the 9th and gave him an opportunity to come out, acknowledge the fans, do a curtain call, and really get the kind of recognition from the fans of the Toronto Blue Jays that he deserved. And you know what? Maybe his production has faltered in the last few seasons. Yes, he's had some trouble when it comes to the injuries. However, there's no doubt that this guy put up some incredible numbers with the Toronto Blue Jays, and he deserved his recognition. So kudos to Jose Bautista. The Toronto Blue Jays have 2 remaining series, one against the Boston Red Sox, which is currently underway, and one against the New York Yankees to close out this season. To say it's been an unfortunate season for the Toronto Blue Jays would be an understatement. They were decimated by injuries all season long. The loss of Edwin has definitely hurt them, in my opinion. A lot of talk, obviously, throughout the season as to whether or not they made the wrong decision, keeping Jose and not re-signing Edwin. It's a hard thing to say, really it is. I mean, there's no question that Edwin stayed. The result may have been different, but in my opinion, I mean, this season was off the rails. And I think it having Aaron Sanchez miss as much of the season as he did really hurt him in terms of that stabilized rotation. And it really would have set the tone for the entire pitching staff, in my opinion. But like I said, it's one of those things that they'll live and learn from, and we'll see how they go next season. In terms of the playoff story that we know right now for the Major League Baseball story, the New York Yankees officially booked their spot into the playoffs over the weekend. They joined the Cleveland Indians, the Boston Red Sox, the Houston Astros, the Washington Nationals, the LA Dodgers, and the Arizona Diamondbacks as teams who have clinched a playoff spot so far with a week to go in the regular season. Here's what we don't know is who is going to occupy the second wild card in both the National League and the American League. Over in the American League, it's Minnesota leading by 4.5 games over their closest competition, which is the LA Angels of Anaheim. 4.5 game lead with a week to go. Should be in the bag, but you never know. Minnesota, like I said, currently occupies that second wild card spot in the American League. Over in the National League, Colorado Rockies lead the second wild card by 2 games over the Milwaukee Brewers and 2.5 games over the St. Louis Cardinals. Like I said, with a week to go, anything can happen. It's been crazy. Now, here's what we also know. The Chicago Cubs currently lead the National League Central, and the Milwaukee Brewers and the St. Louis Cardinals are the 2 teams that are chasing them. It'll be really interesting coming down to the wire to see which one of those teams end up where. Either the Chicago Cubs, the Milwaukee Brewers, or the St. Louis Cardinals. One will finish the division winner. The other could potentially be the second wild card. Colorado, like I said, currently leads by 2. They look to have a firm grasp on it. It's theirs to lose, in my opinion. That's your MLB story for this week on TST Total Sports Talk. We'll be right back after this. Don't go away. You are watching TST Total Sports Talk. Peter Rogers back with you for TST Total Sports Talk. Thank you very much for joining me as always, and thank you for watching this week's episode of TST Total Sports Talk. Here now is your TST Total Sports Talk Sports Movie Pick of the Week. The TST Total Sports Talk Sports Movie Pick of the Week is Friday Night Lights. This movie came out in 2004. It's based on H.G. Bissinger's book, which profiled economically depressed town of Odessa, Texas, and their heroic high school football team, the Permian High Panthers. This movie starred Billy Bob Thornton, Lucas Black, Tim McGraw, Grover Colson, Connie Britton, Connie Cooper, Casey Stevens, and Ryan Duzich. It would later become a TV show on Netflix of the same title, different characters to a degree. Connie Britton also played the coach's wife in the TV show on Netflix as well as the movie. This is a phenomenal movie. Billy Bob Thornton is incredible as the coach, and Lucas Black as the quarterback of the Permian High Panthers.
Well, it's real simple. You got 2 more quarters and that's it. Now, most of you have been playing this game for 10 years. And you got 2 more quarters, and after that, most of you will never play this game again as long as you live. Now, you all have known me for a while, and for a long time now, you've been hearing me talk about being perfect. Well, I want you to understand something. To me, being perfect is not about that scoreboard out there. It's not about winning. It's about you and your relationship to yourself and your family and your friends. Being perfect is about being able to look your friends in the eye and know that you didn't let them down because you told them the truth. And that truth is that you did everything that you could. There wasn't one more thing that you could have done. Can you live in that moment as best you can with clear eyes and love in your heart? With joy in your heart. If you can do that, gentlemen, then you're perfect.
This week's TST Total Sports Talk Sports Movie Pick of the Week is Friday Night Lights, released in 2004. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for watching this week's episode of TST Total Sports Talk. I hope you've enjoyed it. I know I have. And we look forward to being back here again next week. There'll be a lot more sports to talk about. And as we get down to it, I mean, it's so exciting time right now. The NBA preseason will start. The NHL season will get underway. The Owen Sound Attack will be 3 games in. The Saugeen Shores WInterhawks will be right about to start. They'll be they're 11 days away. And we can't wait for them to start and be able to keep covering them on Hawk Talk every week on TST Total Sports Talk. Andrew Rogers signing off this week for TST Total Sports Talk. Thank you very much for watching me, and we'll see you again next week. And as always, reminding you to keep your head up and keep your stick on the ice.